Jeremy and Joe, good morning. Welcome to Camp Week. Practices get started on Wednesday. We'll talk to Sal Capaccio, who has a new piece up on our website, WGR550.com, little camp preview piece. And we'll also welcome him back to the airwaves and to the United States after a Italy excursion. Sal, welcome back.
It was great. Thank you. It's great to be home. That's 10 days, I guess, total when you figure in the travel. It's quite a while to be away. And, I was trying to keep an eye on things back here, 6 hours ahead. But it was amazing. The people that joined in who heard the promotional ads going on, months ago on WGR to, come to Italy with me, well, we had about 20 people. And they were big, Western New Yorkers, Bills fans from all over. And we're talking from Orlando to New York City to Syracuse. And then we were part of a bigger group. We kind of combined. There were 44 people, ironically, Jeremy.
Nice.
And incredibly, a woman was there with her two daughters, and both daughters had recently both graduated from Syracuse. So it was kind of crazy there, too. Awesome. Saw a lot of places. Went to 7 Italy cities in 10 days. I'd never been to Venice. I'd never been to Lake Como. We did those. I'd never been to Florence. And maybe the wildest part of the trip was walking in Florence, walking down the street, and a few people had, Bills shirts on and logos and gear. And a guy randomly stops us and says, "Hey, go Bills." And it's like, "Oh, wow, you from Buffalo?" And he says, "Actually, I'm one of the new minority owners." And his name is Mike Jew. And he happened to be in Florence and happened to just be walking where we were and noticed somebody wearing a Bill shirt.
Did you immediately check the phone? Is this person legit? Or,
Yeah.
Anybody could
there's
just
so many of them too.
In Italy, I might just go tell people I'm a minority owner of the Bills. So you looked into it and you found it was legit.
I found it was legit. Yeah, for sure. He definitely is, and it was great. It was really cool. And he said, he'll maybe be at training camp or whatever. We kind of just talked for a little while, but very cool experience. Everything else was great, and. Yeah, we had a really, really great time. The world is very small, too, as we all know. And one of the also wildest things that happened that I'll share real quick is the first night we were there when I stood up and kind of said to everybody, "Hey, thanks for coming. Glad all of you kind of joined in. We have some other people here, too, that obviously were a big part of this group." And right after that, a woman walks up to me, and she says, "So you work at WGR in Buffalo? Do you know Alan Davis?" And that is our boss, of course. And I said, "Of course, that's my boss." And she said, "I am his wife's best friend since 4th grade." And they are, and her name is Peggy. Wait, Peggy's wife's name is Ted, and they are both, get this, very big supporters of the 11-day power play from out in Iowa where they live.
Nice.
How crazy is that? They weren't even part of our group.
Yeah. And so you've also been in contact with Bills backers bars out in Italy before, right?
I have. I actually visited the Bills backers bar in Milan. I was in contact with some of the Bills backers out there for this trip. We just couldn't make it work. They said Florence or Lake Como would have been the best spot. But, every day we were kind of in and out of cities for a day and a half. So it kind of didn't work out this time. But I have been, and I have seen it, yeah. And Bills backers bars are kind of everywhere. And I did see randomly people, just walking. It wasn't like they were right next to me, but you could see someone up ahead, a woman. Where were you? I think we were in Venice, and a girl walked by us. She was wearing a Josh Allen jersey. I had no idea who she was. She wasn't part of our group, nothing like that. So maybe she's from the United States, maybe not. I don't know, but we saw some of that too.
It's crazy. I mean, when I was in Ireland last year, Sal, there were the 4 of us that went were taking a picture with a Bills flag in front of the Cliffs of Moher, and just from people that were there walking by, I think we ended up taking a picture with 9 people because they were just walking by from Buffalo. What ended up being your favorite city?
I'm a big fan of Rome because I'm a real big history buff, right? So I just love thinking about, standing right here, what happened here 2,000 years ago. You think things. I always say my house was built in 1901 here in Buffalo. That's old in Buffalo. That's 125 years old. These places we were are 2,000 plus years old, right? I mean, you think about how old these things are, and then Florence was amazing, absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. But there were so many of them. Really enjoyed. We walked into the Assisi, the little town of Assisi. It's more of a religious town. And the woman said, "Yeah, that wall you just walked past dates back to 300 years before Christ." Are you kidding me? Right? You think about things like that. So that was it. Got a text the day we were in Rome. Got a text that night. It was from our buddy Joe Licata, who, we all know, quarterback here in Western New York. He said, guess where I am right now? He saw I was in the Coliseum. He was also at the Coliseum the same day. We didn't see each other.
Amazing.
But how about that? Joe was on his honeymoon in Italy.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. And the food?
I mean, what else can you say? And I will tell you guys, you know me, I always say, like, I like my red wine when I go out, and I think I had more red wine than I've had in my life over a week time period, but it sits different. It just sits different. It really does. It's just so nice and good. And the Italian food, obviously great. I'll tell you, I didn't realize this. I came home and I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like I probably ate so much. I'm going to be really heavy. You know, when you feel bloated like that, I get on the scale at home and I actually had lost weight. And people told me, oh no, that's because of the way they make the food there. Like you just don't gain weight like you would here because of what we put in our foods compared to what they do or don't, which was kind of interesting to me, but the food was amazing, obviously.
I also learned going over there that chicken parm in Italy is not a thing. Like, doesn't exist. It's American.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really
bit.
see a lot of that or think about that. There's, as you guys know, there's a gelato shop on every corner. And
yes, holy cow.
A lot of gelato eating going on over there.
Sal joining us. So back, ready, refreshed, and ready to tackle the heat of St. John Fisher. The forecast this week, Sal, it's going to be warm when we get out there.
Yeah, I'm going to have Pat Hammer on the Extra Point Show tomorrow, and we'll talk with him a little bit about what to expect if you're coming out to camp the rest of this week and the next week. And yeah, I know that these are the days that this happens out at St. John Fisher. It's going to be in the 90s, I think, maybe once or twice as we get on out there. So, the players, they're going to be out on the field at 9:15, really is when we hear from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, and then coaches on every day. And then, by the time they get on the field at 9:45, so it's not the peak of the heat, but by the time they end practice, it will be. And, it's just going to be one of the smaller stories because there's a lot of them, obviously headed into camp this year.
So you have a piece up on our website at WGR550.com, a storyline for each position group. And we'll get through some of it. You're also going to post a defensive side of the ball tomorrow as we preview camp.
Yeah.
Let's start at quarterback because the Bills will have a honest-to-goodness competition at the backup quarterback spot. And how often has that really been the case, Sal? And how many reps will there be to see who the right guy is? I mean, this preseason could determine if it's Mike White or if it's Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I would give the pretty good lean right now to Mitch Trubisky, but I do think that there's an opening for Mike White here, guys. And, yeah, honest to goodness, as you say, competition, I think that's got to unfold in the preseason. I think Mitch Trubisky is the backup, but if Mike White can show in the preseason that he can outplay him and play better than him, look, I think there's a scenario where Mike White could wind up winning that job. I don't want to totally discount Shane Buechele. The Bills really like Shane Buechele. I just don't see him factoring in here at the end of the day, but they do really like him. Now, if the Bills did release Trubisky, it would cost them $1.7 million in dead money. That's not something you really want to do. But it also would save them $400,000 more than it would save by releasing Mike White. So if you're talking financially, you could see a way that could wind up happening. We'll see about the reps. I think that's what you're going to see is preseason games will tell us a little bit. And A, I'm guessing it'll be Trubisky to start that, when he's the main guy. But B, I do wonder if Mike White starts to eat into it just to see if they figure out, maybe we have to think about that.
Sal Capaccio with us on the Wester Hotline. Sal, is James Cook a story really still going into training camp? Do you think at least going into maybe the first day, and then if he's on the field practicing, then it kind of gets, it'll die down as a story at least?
Yeah, I think as of right now, it's the biggest storyline of camp, Joe, but you're right. I mean, it could really change once we're there on Wednesday for a lot of reasons. Is it he's there and he says, hey, I'm practicing. I got 1 year left on my deal. All right, let's roll. I mean, that happens every year, guys, going into the last year of their contract. So then there's no big deal. If he makes some noise about it, if he says, I really want to get something done and I don't know what's going to happen here, and, anything that kind of is noteworthy, especially because Hard Knocks is there, right? I think that becomes a little bit more of the story. Hard Knocks focusing on this and, what we're going to see from that. Obviously, there could be some extension. I don't think that's going to happen at this point, but you never know. Been surprised before, so maybe that's a story. But you're right, Joe. I think that, when we get to camp on Wednesday and James Cook is there, that's the number one thing. Is he there? If he is, what is he doing? Is he participating in every drill? Is it a hold-in situation? Assuming it's not, assuming he's there, he participates in every drill, I think that it kind of dies down slowly and goes away. But there's a chance here for this to get to be a bigger story depending on all that.
What about for Davis? Because Ray Davis is seen as the guy, like if Cook were ever to not be on the field because of injury or whatever, he steps up. And he also, I don't know, is there curiosity to see if he can be a starting caliber running back for the Bills past this season? But also, Sal, like, I don't know where, like, if I'm watching him in training camp or during the season, like, where's the growth for him? Is it speed? Is there something else that you would need to see him get better at to kind of, take on a role like that? Because age-wise, he's the same age as James Cook. Like, he's not a young developmental player that they picked. I mean, he could get better, but this isn't like a 4-year, like 3-year process of watching him get better. He'll be 28 by then.
Yeah, but he does have 3 years left on his deal. Obviously, that would be something you could look at and say, sure, age-wise. And I agree with you, Joey. Like, you're talking about a guy that after one contract, you're like, okay, is he too old to resign, right? And as a running back. So it's a good question. I think that, his just an overall game of getting the ball more touches, being able to handle all that, everything that goes along with it. We've seen James Cook be able to do that in his growth and maturity as a football player over the last few years. So maybe that's what it is. I don't think the Bills, think to themselves, well, let's just see if Ray Davis can be a starting running back. I think that's got to play out organically and naturally. If James Cook isn't available, then Ray Davis becomes kind of your main guy there, and then we're going to find out if that's the case. But I think for the Bills' purposes right now, James Cook is the number one running back. They have no intention of not having James Cook the number one running back, but that's going to be kind of up to James Cook depending on his contract situation and how all this gets handled.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Sal, to the receivers, do you have a feel for how this will go? And will there be a numbers crunch based on special teams? That, to me, is really the biggest question at receiver. We know Shakir, Coleman, Palmer are as safe as probably could be. You get down to Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, Tyrell Shavers, Jalen Virgil. Like, can anybody make this team because of special teams? Is Laviska Shenault in that mix? How do you see the bottom couple receivers playing out, and what number is there to make the roster?
So the storyline that I wrote for the one storyline at each position heading into camp for wide receiver is how do Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer fit in and what are their reps? And I would say that, Palmer is on the team. They gave him a nice contract. He's on the team. They targeted him in free agency. He's there. I think Elijah Moore's on the team. I think based on the fact that they gave him a little bit of money, not extraordinary, but also he has a skill set that they really kind of lack and need. They signed him right after the draft and brought him in, and he looked good in OTAs and minicamp. So there's a story right there of let's watch and see this play out. Is it 100% locked that Elijah Moore is on this team? I would say no, not at this point. I think he is. Well, that gets you to 5 because I don't envision Curtis Samuel not being around. I think that considering the money they gave him, what it would cost to move on, and the fact that towards the end of the year, he really did step up and they started to use him the way that I think they really wanted to all year. It just didn't envision. That's 5 right there because we obviously know that Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman are on the team. I think you have to really stretch to get to 6. I don't see Laviska Shenault making it. He'd have to really impress. Not only his main job is going to be kick returner. There's only going to be maybe a small chance to even have a ability to make it there because you're going to have probably, I think, Brandon Codrington and then either Ray Davis or Ty Johnson can do it. He'd have to really show that he can contribute as a wide receiver, but maybe he'll get that chance. And then Tyrell Shavers is the other guy, and he's just kind of that bubble guy. I mean, is there a spot for him? I don't know. I don't know if he's a good enough special teams player to justify that. You could keep other guys around the roster for being gunners or being guys on kickoff teams or things like that. You have linebackers, you have DBs, guys like that. So I think it's 5 at the end of the day. But to your question, Jeremy, I will say this is a Brandon Codrington question too, right? And Brandon Codrington is not a wide receiver. Brandon Codrington is a cornerback. I am higher on him making the team than a lot of other people seem to be because I just think that the way the Bills operated last year, they showed, and I know that we're not talking receiver here, but it affects the numbers. I think the Bills showed last year, like, hey, they went out and got this guy. They traded for him. He was their main guy all year. I know people could say they didn't trust him, quote unquote, at the end of the year in the playoffs. Well, look, he was dealing with an injury and practicing and getting ready and ramping up and game plan. All those things matter Monday through Saturday as you're getting for a Sunday playoff team. So I think all of that factored in. I just think he's on the team, and I think that takes away a spot that you might potentially give to a wide receiver when you think about those numbers as well.
That would be my question to anybody that thinks Codrington would maybe not make the team is one, like, was there anything you didn't like from him during the regular season when he played? And two, if he doesn't get hurt, do we think he's not playing in those playoff games? Like, I wonder, Sal, if part of what happened there was maybe less lack of trust, and two, they just, end of the season, Shakir did it, and it looked really good. Shakir, I think, had a big return when he did it the first time, and it was, okay, at this point now we can just save a roster spot. But going into this year, they're not going to want Shakir doing that, I don't think, game in and game out.
I mean, they just paid he's their number one receiver, basically. They paid him $58 million. They're not going to do that. I can't see it. He's not going to be your number one, punt return. He'll be like Micah Hyde was. Break glass in case of emergency, put a guy back there. And I think that's kind of what he was in the playoffs, but he had an ability to return the ball like Hyde did as well. But it's about decision-making, right? And look, it is the playoffs. It is the weather, the wind, all that kind of stuff. And Brandon Codrington coming off an injury. The other question to ask yourself, Joe, is if it's not Codrington, who is it? Because like you said, I don't think it's going to be Shakir. I mean, is there a spot? Matt Bove and I did an Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast yesterday. I hope people can check it out. We had the same discussion, and Matt brought up, could Elijah Moore be that guy? And that's how you save a spot. Well, Elijah Moore has only 2 punt returns his entire NFL career, but he did do it at Ole Miss. He has like 25 or something like that. Like, it's not out of the question maybe something like that happens, which winds up impacting the wide receiver numbers. So that's going to be interesting how all of that shakes out.
Yeah. Real quick, on Samuel, too, Sal, I just look, he's returned kicks in his career, but he's not returned punts in the NFL also. The Bills right now are right up against the cap. Like, Spot Track, I know their numbers are not exact, because actually they have the Bills top 51 over the salary cap, is the only team in the league that is over the salary cap. And I think everyone kind of knows, like, they need to make a little bit of room, even if it's only a little bit. Samuel, they would clear $7 million by trading him, but they don't really get anything by cutting him. And they only got the 1 year, and he was hurt. So I guess really what do they really want from Samuel? Like a 10-snap-a-game player at minimum? Like, I guess what role do you think he needs to carve out for himself for them to think it's worth keeping him around if he is the 4th or the 5th receiver?
I think it's the same role they envisioned for him coming in but never materialized, Joe, which is matchup guy that you can put around the field in different positions in different situations, right? You can put him outside, you can put him in the slot, you can line him up in the backfield. We're going to match him up in certain down and distances where you say, okay, we know what you play personnel-wise as a defense on 2nd and 5. So we're going to put Curtis Samuel on the field to match up against that because we have a really good ability and opportunity here to get him the ball in space and get in his hands. And last year, they started forcing that at times, right, with some of those screens. I think because they wanted to see it happen, and he just wasn't quite healthy enough to be able to do a lot of the things they wanted to do. But what happened as the season kind of went on towards the end of the year, that Denver game, a really nice big play. Like, I mean, boy, I hate to revisit it, but, man, if he doesn't get tripped up against Kansas City, we might be talking about a different result in that game, right? I mean, like, that he started to really show that he could be that guy. So I think that's the role he's got to carve out, and then from there, his role starts to become even more as a pure wide receiver.
Sal Capaccio. Sal, the offensive line, it's tough to find a storyline, right? Like, they've got a lot of returning players, a lot of returning backups. So what is it that you watch there at the offensive line spot?
Jeremy, I think that's the storyline, right? Which is, I mean, honestly, can you guys have been saying this for 3-4 months? I'll ask you guys, can you ever remember a team bringing back all 10 of their main offensive linemen?
No, never.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean, that's what they're doing. They have not only every one of their 5 starters coming back, but every one of their main backups are coming back. There's nobody that's not coming back. And this is not a bad offensive line. It's a very, very, very good offensive line. I think one of the top offensive lines in the league, and with a really good offensive line coach in Aaron Cromer. So all you're doing is adding on a great offensive line, which set records last year for allowing fewest sacks, did a really great job to keep Josh Allen healthy. That communication piece is there. I think the only thing I'm looking for then is, can someone eat into one of those backup roles? No one's going to be taking over for a starter. I mean, unless you want to leave a little space for Alec Anderson to try and push David Edwards, because Alec Anderson doesn't have to be the 6th offensive lineman anymore because they now have Jackson Hawes. Maybe that allows that to happen. I still think he's more of the backup swing guy. He can do a lot of different things for you in a pinch. But how about Chase Lunt? I know that there's a lot of belief in that building. Chase Lunt can come in and compete right away. Like, he's a good athlete. He's a lot like I'm not going to compare him to Spencer Brown, right? But he's a lot like a bigger, athletic guy like a Spencer Brown. He's a lot like a Ryan Vandermark, who was a healthy scratch last year. Like, does he compete with those guys? Like, not Spencer, but like Ryan Vandermark, the backup guys. does Richard Garage in his third year, who really started to come on last year in training camp. And so to me, that's really the only storyline. And provided, knock on wood, they all stay healthy. I mean, the storyline is everybody's back and everybody's playing again.
Yeah, if I was really working, like I could, but it's center. I was going to say, McGovern's in the last year of his contract, and like maybe you could watch for someone in training camp and preseason to be like, oh, maybe this guy could be, that could be Anderson even, I don't know, somebody that could be a future replacement for him. But you have to get to a point where you think the Bills don't bring McGovern back in the first place to even, I think, wonder about that.
Yeah, and I mean, Cedric Van Perrin Granger, right?
Yeah.
They did draft him last year.
Right.
So, sure, Joe. I mean, I could get there. I think at this point, it's probably more likely he would get a contract extension than be released. But there's certainly something there to think about with him for both scenarios.
Yeah.
Sal Capaccio. Sal, we'll see you out there on Wednesday for practice number 1. Rookies have reported. And while you were gone, Sal, you missed the whole drama about the second-round picks. It looks like that thing came and went. So the good news is TJ Sanders is under contract. Everything got taken care of.
Yeah, it is. And it's so funny you say you missed it. You're right, except the fact that you better remember, guys, I was with like 20 Bills fans. I mean, everybody was asking about, is he going to be at camp? And then as soon as it happened, oh, hey, did you see this guy sign? Did you see that guy sign? So people were dialed in. So I was definitely trying to pay attention to what was going on back here. I did miss the swing off in the All-Star game.
Okay.
That I did not know until I woke up the next day and said, oh, this happened last night? Wow, that was really interesting. But, yes, it's good. Everybody's obviously signed, ready to go. And look, I think one of the things we'll be watching over the next 48 hours is the PUP list. We know Landon Jackson's on it right now because rookies reported last week to Orchard Park, to get their camp going a little bit and report for physicals and all that. You guys reported that Landon was at Mafia Con over the weekend, and Trainwreck Sports did an interview, and he said he should be fully go. But is there anybody else, veterans-wise, that gets on the PUP list? Sometimes there's surprises. Look what happened in New England. Mac Hollins shows up on the PUP list, right? I mean, there's just these things happen. Guys show up, they have an injury that happened, it occurred, and whatever. And then there's Joey Bosa. Oh, guys, we haven't seen Joey Bosa play yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he missed all of OTAs and minicamp. From all the things we heard, he'll be ready to rock and roll. But let's see, when we get out there, who's on the PUP list, who's not on the PUP list. Hopefully nobody is and everybody's out there, but obviously that's something to pay attention to.
Very good. Thanks, Sal. We'll talk tomorrow. We'll get to the defensive side of the ball tomorrow.